Yes, indeed, and Extreme Rules is our topic of choice right now. The upcoming pay-per-view, which indeed is on 1 week from today. We're going to discuss the card and tell you exactly who we think will be coming out on top in those matches. And indeed, we start with the matches announced so far, and indeed, I'm sure one or two more might be added by the time this video gets to you. But Rey Mysterio is taking on CM Punk. Now, they renamed it Extreme Rules because, of course, Backlash was the traditional WrestleMania pay-per-view afters, and indeed we were expecting, as always, to see feuds come back again, but indeed they renamed it Extreme Rules. Perhaps it's got a bit of market value, and indeed it looks like so far the card is all rematches.
Yeah, it's a great move. I mean, Backlash was always probably the worst pay-per-view of the year.
The landscape is certainly different nowadays, and I think selling those pay-per-views is getting harder and harder, especially when somebody puts $50 a month aside and they end up ordering UFC. I mean, if you're not delivering a product worth $50, $60, you're not going to get those buys.
It's very true, and you have to wonder how the TNA buy rates are these days for their pay-per-views, and it'll be interesting to see tonight after, or what kind of a draw it does tonight with the pay-per-view from TNA. So yeah, I can't imagine it being too good with those ratings.
Indeed, Rey Mysterio taking on CM Punk, and I think if CM Punk loses this match, he has to shave his head. That's quite an interesting stipulation. We've seen that a couple of times this year on the various different programming. Certainly nothing original there, but indeed, I think maybe CM Punk has already planned to perhaps have a haircut, so it suits him fine.
Why doesn't Rey have to do anything if Rey loses?
Interesting question. Didn't have the faintest about the idea of that, but it looks like Rey is going to escape unscathed.
Rey gets to keep the mask on. Maybe Punk does need a haircut. I would probably like to see if he cut the hair completely, just shave it like Gallows maybe, but keep the beard and go a little bit wackier with the preaching. That might be interesting.
Yeah, you mentioned Gallows, and I think straight away to Straight Edge Society, and I realise he's got to shave his head just like the other two. So indeed, CM Punk losing that match to Rey Mysterio. Time travel video this, we're making the predictions, but I think that's probably going to happen, and I'll admit it if I'm wrong. Well, what do you think? Do you think I'm right, or?
I think you're 100% right.
So we're going to go with our first prediction. We think CM Punk is going to defeat Rey Mysterio because he fancies shaving his head. So he probably let the office know that, and indeed they went with it. And indeed maybe they'll further that Straight Edge Society gimmick, hopefully. Now Triple H will take on Sheamus in a street fight. This is where we're hoping Sheamus gets put over. We thought he was going to be put over by his locker room friend at WrestleMania 26. It didn't happen. Now we're looking for Hunter Hearst Helmsley to really just give back to the youth and let Sheamus triumph. We want Sheamus to win, and indeed I'm going to predict my own prediction, Sheamus coming out on top. What do you think?
Yeah, Hunter, you need to step it up here and put the kid over. I mean, this buried at WrestleMania towards the end. Although you did give him space to breathe, which is good, and you did let him showcase his talent, and I think old SOS can do it. I think he can take trips out at Extreme Rules. He needs to get back into that frame, or else he's going to slip back into the John Morrison mid-card, and he definitely doesn't want that. You'll have Sheamus and R-Truth over on SmackDown up against the Dude Busters, and I mean, it's TNA, and then, you know, maybe a global championship for him. So you need to keep on top of Sheamus, I think. Let him go over and let Trips do the job for the big man.
Now Edge taking on Chris Jericho, a steel cage match, and indeed I don't watch SmackDown as closely as I should because wow, I mean, Edge versus Chris Jericho apparently now being nixed. The match is being talked about like this is the end of that feud. We didn't have that long. What was the problem? I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought it was good too, but my God, how I forgot how Edge, babyface Edge, just does not work. It doesn't work. I know too much of anything is bad, and he's been healed for quite some time, but I just had forgotten how annoying he was when he was a babyface back in the day, and just those terrible, goofy comments he drops in these promos there. I mean, unless he's working us and it's overly goofy, but Jesus Christ, I mean, yeah, it's rough going there, Edge, definitely.
Edge taking on Chris Jericho. I suppose we're going to put a prediction down on this one. It's quite disappointing that match probably won't be going any further. I think they could have gotten a couple more main events out of that. And indeed, Edge taking on Chris Jericho. I suppose I'm going to go with, let me say on the spot, let's say Chris Jericho. I've seen the amount of changes that have gone on recently on the pay-per-views. I can't rule out that indeed we're going to see something along those lines. What about yourself? Any predictions?
I'm going to go with Edge on this one because he needs to get that super push as the babyface back up and really establish it and let the people know that he's not heel anymore. And he's kind of, I mean, it's fairly obvious now, but I think to super push it, Jericho's out of the title picture a little bit now, and he doesn't need to go over with this one. There's no belt involved, so I think Edge is going to come out on top of this.
Now the last man standing match, John Cena taking on Batista. Now actually at the end of this week's Raw, we had Otunga tapping out, and at that stage we had Batista, who was waiting at the top of the ramp. He called for the spotlight on him, and there was an intense promo, and what I've failed to mention was the absolute really incredible pops of the UK audience. They only get that TV taping twice a year, and indeed most fans might get to it once, maybe twice, but certainly they made that last intense confrontation. That sold that match for me, seeing those two guys standing at opposite sides, and the intensity, the ferocity was palpable.
It was right up there. They cranked it up, and old Batista, heel Batista, is working it, and he's working it a charm. I think having Otunga even with them makes it more legit. And predictions for this one, I can see Otunga doing an interference, Batista taking the title, and then an Otunga Cena kind of gimmick going off there for a couple of weeks, and let them build Otunga right up into that kind of high bracket level with those guys, because I think he can certainly do it. Actually, Seamus, if you're listening, eBay, you can get sledgehammers for about $30, so you can leave the poll at home for Extreme Rules next Sunday. 30 quid, you'd probably have it even by the time Extreme Rules rolls around if you get it from the States. So nice size sledgehammer, and you can take trips out, and we know the rest.
Yeah, he's going to need it in that match he has. It's a street fight. And yeah, get down to the Walmart, wherever you can find it, the Best Buy, the Target, and pick up one of those for yourself. I know that Triple H always has that advantage. A bit unfair, but then being that company man, always with Sledgehammer in place. So John Cena, Batista, last man standing. As you can tell, not really, apart from that intense sort of standoff, into the actual match, because we know it'll be a demonstration of strength like WrestleMania was.
Yeah, it will be. I think some people are just going to be so sick of Cena versus Batista for the 16th millionth time. But, it's just amazing how they can make it fresh again. And it is fresh going into Extreme Rules. I think they'll have a good match.
Yes, indeed. So if I was to make a prediction on that last man standing match, I would go, I think, with John Cena again. I think maybe we could be on the way to that non-stop John Cena win record that we had a couple of years ago, where we all really wanted him to lose. And to be honest, I'd like them to go that way. It's controversial, but it always had me absolutely into that main event, hoping to see Cena get beat. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it is, and they're kind of working the marks, I think, for the most part, with that kind of a storyline. I think it would be good to see it again. Super Cena, just constant destruction all the way, and a good 2-year title run. Fingers crossed, without an injury, it would be. It would make for some good TV.
But the World Heavyweight Champion Jack Swagger took on Randy Orton, an Extreme Rules match. It will happen at Extreme Rules, and Orton Swagger. Yeah, I'm into Orton, and I think he could make Swagger look good. Perhaps this is the match Swagger needs to really concrete himself in there in that main event picture. I think Jack Swagger, a great worker, a fantastic performer. Not sure exactly what he needs, but it's definitely a match without Orton